When a British officer rudely told Funmilayo to keep the women quiet, she replied, "You may have been born, but you were not bred. Would you speak to your mother like that?" This boldness earned her the nickname Lioness and banned Funmilayo from entering the palace for political meetings. In response, the AWU members blocked the palace entrance, preventing the visiting British officer from leaving. Chief Funmilayo Ransom Kuti, born Frances Abigail Olufunmilayo Olufela Folorunsho Thomas on October 25, 1900, was a famous Nigerian teacher, political activist, and fighter for women's rights. She was also known as Funmilayo Anikulapo Kuti. Funmilayo was born in Abeokuta, a town in what is now Ogun State, Nigeria. She was the first girl to attend Abeokuta Grammar School, which was a big deal at the time because girls were not often given the chance to go to school. As an adult, she worked as a teacher and organized some of the country's first preschool classes. She also taught literacy classes to women who couldn't read or write, especially those who didn't have much money. In the 1940s, Funmilayo started the Abeokuta Women's Union, a group that fought for the rights of women. She demanded that women be better represented in local government and that the unfair taxes placed on market women be removed. Funmilayo was a strong leader and she led marches and protests with as many as 10,000 women. Her strong voice and leadership were so powerful that in 1949, the ruler of Abeokuta, known as the Alake, had to step down temporarily because of the pressure from Funmilayo and the women she led. As her political influence grew, Funmilayo became involved in Nigeria's fight for independence from British rule. She participated in important meetings and was part of groups that traveled overseas to discuss how Nigeria's future government should be formed. She was a key figure in the creation of the Nigerian Women's Union and the Federation of Nigerian Women's Societies. Through these organizations, she fought for women's rights to vote and became well known internationally for her work in promoting peace and women's rights. Funmilayo Ransom Kuti received many honors for her work, including the Lenin Peace Prize and the national award called the Order of the Niger. Even as she gets older, she continued to support her sons, who were outspoken critics of Nigeria's military governments. She died at the age of 77 after being injured during a military raid on her family's home. Funmilayo's children included the famous musician Fela Kuti, the doctor and activist Beko Ransom Kuti, and the health minister Olikoye Ransom Kuti. Between 1919 and 1922, she traveled to England for further education, attending a finishing school where she learned many skills, including music, dressmaking, French, and elocution, the art of speaking clearly. While in England, she decided to start using her Yoruba name, Funmilayo, instead of her English name, Frances, likely due to experiences with racism. After returning to Nigeria, she became a teacher in Abeokuta. On January 20, 1925, Funmilayo married Reverend Israel Oludotun Ransom Kuti, who was also an educator. Israel had attended Abeokuta Grammar School a few years ahead of Funmilayo, and they had become friends and later started dating while she was still in school. Israel was passionate about bringing people together and overcoming ethnic and regional divisions. He co-founded both the Nigeria Union of Teachers and the Nigerian Union of Students. The couple shared a deep respect for each other, and their marriage lasted 30 years until Israel's death. After getting married, Funmilayo stopped teaching full-time. She didn't stop working. In 1928, she set up one of the first preschool classes in Nigeria. Around the same time, she started a club for young women from well-off families to encourage their self-improvement. She also organized literacy classes for women who couldn't read or write. In 1935, she and her husband bought a second-hand car, making Funmilayo the first woman in Nigeria to drive a car. The couple had 4 children, a daughter named Dolupo, and 3 sons, Olukoye, Fela, and Beko. In 1933, Funmilayo helped start the Abeokuta Ladies Club, which was initially focused on charity work, sewing, catering, and adult education classes. Most of the members were Christian, Western-educated women from middle-class backgrounds. However, by the 1940s, the club began to focus more on political issues. Inspired by a friend who couldn't read and asked Funmilayo for help, she started organizing literacy workshops for market women, which gave her a deeper understanding of the social and political challenges many Nigerian women faced. Funmilayo realized that the struggles of Nigerian women couldn't be understood just by looking at those from privileged backgrounds like hers. She believed that the true situation of Nigerian women had to be seen through the eyes of women who worked long hours on farms and struggled to make ends meet. In 1944, Funmilayo led a successful campaign to stop local authorities from unfairly seizing rice from market women. In 1946, the Abeokuta Ladies Club was renamed the Abeokuta Women's Union, AWU, and it became open to all women in Abeokuta. Under Funmilayo's leadership, the Abeokuta Women's Union fought against unfair price controls and taxes that were imposed on market women. The Abeokuta Women's Union grew rapidly, with 20,000 official members and up to 100,000 supporters. Funmilayo's first major political action was leading the Abeokuta Women's Union in a protest against a tax that was being unfairly imposed on women. In Abeokuta, market women had to pay a special tax that went directly to market supervisors in addition to other taxes. The Alake, a local traditional ruler, had imposed these taxes on women after the Egba Native Administration was established in 1914. When the AWU's appeals to British authorities to remove the Alake and stop the tax failed, Funmilayo and the AWU began using newspapers and petitions to get their message across. They also organized protests where women refused to pay the tax, held vigils outside the Alake's palace, and demanded that women be represented on the local government council. Despite the challenges, including a ban on organizing parades or demonstrations, Funmilayo and the AWU found ways to keep protesting. They declared that their protests were picnics or festivals, which allowed them to get large crowds without needing permits. Some of these protests involved confrontations with the police, but Funmilayo trained women on how to deal with the tear gas that was sometimes used against them. The AWU used membership dues to pay for legal help for members who were arrested. In one memorable incident, when a British officer rudely told Funmilayo to keep the women quiet, she replied, "You may have been born, but you were not bred. Would you speak to your mother like that?" This boldness earned her the nickname Lioness of Lisabi from the West African Pilot newspaper. In February 1948, tensions reached a peak when the Alake compared the protesting women to vipers that could not be tamed and banned Funmilayo from entering the palace for political meetings. In response, the AWU members blocked the palace entrance, preventing the visiting British officer from leaving. The standoff ended when the officer had to pry Funmilayo's hands from the steering wheel of his car. Public sympathy grew for the women, And in early 1948, after more protests, the Alake suspended the tax on women and appointed a special committee to address the AWU's complaints. By early 1949, the AWU's effort led to the temporary abdication of the Alake. Newspapers across Nigeria reported on the event, and Fumilayo's work with the AWU gained widespread attention. In 1947, Fumilayo was the only woman in a Nigerian delegation that went to London to protest a proposed Nigerian constitution. While in London, she spoke to various groups about the challenges Nigerian women faced and even wrote an article that criticized colonial rule for its negative impact on Nigerian women. When a conference was held in Nigeria in 1949 to discuss a national constitution, Fumilayo represented Abeokuta and was again the only woman involved. She argued strongly for women's right to vote and against the creation of a complicated electoral system. In May 1949, Fumilayo proposed the formation of the Nigerian Women's Union (NWU) to better support women's rights across the country. The AWU became the Abeokuta branch of the NWU, and Fumilayo traveled widely to help establish NWU branches in other towns and cities. She served as president of both the NWU and the AWU. The NWU aimed to achieve women's suffrage, dismantle electoral colleges, and promote more balanced representation of women in politics. Fumilayo was also a founding member of the Nigerian Union of Teachers and served as the treasurer of the Nigerian Union of Students. In 1953, she was elected the vice president of the Women's International Democratic Federation (WIDF), an organization focused on promoting women's rights and world peace. Through the WIDF, Fumilayo became more involved in international activism. She was a member of the International Union of Students and traveled extensively to support movements for women's rights and independence around the world. Her international work was recognized when she was awarded the Lenin Peace Prize in 1970. Even as she grew older, Fumilayo continued to support her sons, particularly Fela Kuti, who became a famous musician and outspoken critic of Nigeria's military government. Of course, we can't talk of Fumilayo Ransome Kuti without making mention of her son, Fela. Fela Kuti, born on October 15, 1938 in Abeokuta, Nigeria, and passing away on August 2, 1997 in Lagos, was a pioneering Nigerian musician and activist. He is credited with creating Afrobeat, a revolutionary genre that blended American blues, jazz, and funk with traditional Yoruba music. The son of prominent feminist and labor activist Fumilayo Ransome Kuti, Fela showed an early interest in music, taking piano and percussion lessons during his youth. In 1959, he pursued classical music studies in Trinity College, London, where he also explored various musical styles by playing piano in jazz and rock bands. Upon returning to Nigeria in the mid-1960s, Fela reformed his band, Kula Lobitus, which he had originally played with in London. It was through this group's experimentation that Afrobeat was born. Fela's music took a more political charged direction after a 1969 tour of the United States, where he was influenced by the ideas of Malcolm X, the Black Panthers, and other militant figures. His songs, such as Zombie, Monkey Banana, Beast of No Nation, and Upside Down, became calls for social change, resonating deeply with the oppressed and marginalized in Nigeria. Known simply as Fela, he and his band, which was known by different names over the years, Nigeria 70, Africa 70, and later Egypt 80, played to packed audience at his nightclub in Lagos. The club was frequently raided by authorities as Fela's politically charged lyrics condemned the Nigerian military government, leading to his repeated arrests. Near the Ninth Club, he established a communal compound known as the Kalakuta Republic, which he declared independent from the Nigerian state. As the leader of this commune, Fela was a controversial figure, openly advocating for polygamy, marrying 27 women, and promoting the use of marijuana. In 1977, the Nigerian authorities raided the Kalakuta Republic, resulting in Fela's brief imprisonment and the tragic death of his mother, who succumbed to injuries sustained during the raid. Fela later went into exile in Ghana, where he adopted the tribal name Anikulapo, discarding his former name Ransom. In 1979, Fela ventured into politics by founding the Movement of the People and running unsuccessfully for the Nigerian presidency. In 1984, he was imprisoned for 20 months on charges of currency smuggling. After his release, Fela gradually withdrew from active political engagements, leaving his son, Femi, to continue the Afrobeat legacy. Fela faced another imprisonment in 1993 on charges of murder, but these were eventually dropped. He died in 1997, leaving behind a profound legacy in music and activism. Among his children are Yeni, Femi, and Sheun. Now, back to Funmilayo Ransome Kuti. In 1977, Funmilayo was killed during a raid by Nigerian soldiers on the Kalakuta Republic. She was thrown from a second-story window and suffered multiple fractures. She never fully recovered from that incident and died on April 13, 1978, at the age of 77. In 2012, the Nigerian government suggested featuring Ransome Kuti's image on the proposed 5,000 naira currency note. However, later that year, her grandson, musician Sheun Kuti, laughed over the idea, calling the proposal ludicrous, to say the least, given the government's involvement in his grandmother's death. Kuti also mentioned that his family had never received an apology for the attack on their compound, with an official statement attributing the death of his grandmother, Funmilayo Ransome Kuti, to 1,000 unknown soldiers. Funmilayo Ransome Kuti's legacy lives on through the impact she made on women's rights in Nigeria, her role in the country's fight for independence, and the lasting influence she had on her children, who continued her work in various fields. She remains an inspirational figure for many Nigerians and women's rights activists around the world. So guys, how should the Nigerian government issue a public apology to the Funmilayo Ransome Kuti family for their role in the events leading to her death? Or does the passage of time diminish the need for such a formal acknowledgement? Let me know your take on this in the comment section. Thank you for watching till the end. Your support helps the growth of this channel, and we truly appreciate it. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to share it with your friends and family so more people can experience these tales. Also hit the notification bell so you won't miss out on any future stories. Your engagement helps us continue to bring you captivating content, and we look forward to sharing the next exciting chapter with you. Stay tuned for more intriguing stories and see you in the next one. Bye guys!